RotoGrinders Today. I'm Jordan Cooper, a.k.a. BlenderHD. If you want to follow me on Twitter. And it's Wednesday, October 9th, and we'll be taking a first look at the NFL Week 6 slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. So hit that thumbs up button on your way in the door. Give me those thumbs. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to know when we go live. We got tons of content this week for NFL. We got Tournament Takes podcast. We got the solo ship. We got the Blitz show for premium members. We got all the projections, ownership, Sim Labs, right? Get it all. Get NFL Premium, $15 off your first month by clicking on the link in the description below. But let's take a first look at this 10-game slate on DraftKings. And join with me is Alex Santi, as usual, on a Wednesday. And the thing that I notice, DFS-wise at least, now we have some games. I mean, GPP, I think there's a much better GPP week as of now than it is a cash week, if you want to call it. We have some games that I definitely want to target. We have like 6 teams that have at least a 26-point implied total. But pricing-wise, until we get some practice reports and maybe someone's in, someone's out, and value is tough to come by on this slate. There's really no obvious oh, this running back is way underpriced, or this wide receiver because of last week, they still have his 3,600 and whatever, or they didn't price this guy up enough, or we have people coming back that they have still left the price high enough where you still probably don't play him. So I don't know about you, Alex. I think this is, if you're playing double ups, head-to-heads, there are a multitude of ways to go, and I'm not sure if you can necessarily love your lineup, but for GPPs, which we typically don't talk about on this show, we wait till Friday, they're definitely, when pricing is tight, you almost, you want to rely even more on correlation than anything else, because there's no this 4K guy that projects for so well, and it doesn't matter that I'm not correlating with it. He could just be a one-off in some GPP lineups. But looking forward, I don't know. I mean, let's. I know I've been talking, but let's start at the quarterback. I want to pay up a quarterback, but then I start building the rest of my lineup, and I go, I don't even if I punt at tight end and at defense, I still feel like I don't like my lineup that much. And then if I go down at quarterback, I don't like a lot of the quarterbacks. So
okay,
Lamar Jackson at 7,800 with Baltimore having a 29.25 implied team total, it seems like someone that I want to play, but I'm not even sure if I'm going to be able to do that.
Yeah, so I mean, right off the bat, you kind of give a little overview, and I'll give my own. There are 3 flex spots that we'll get to that I want to jam in, but I can't pay up for quarterback and jam those 3 spots in. And then I thought about, okay, so I thought we were going to disagree right off the bat on this, but you're kind of teetering with quarterback too. I thought you were going to say, maybe we just jam in Lamar, but I don't think this is going to be a very competitive game for Lamar. And we've talked about this on past weeks. When we want Lamar in a tight game where it's back and forth, where they tell Lamar, hey, Lamar, make a play. And I think when the Ravens historically have had comfortable leads, they try not to get Lamar smashed in the open field. So I fear paying up for that. Jalen Hurts, I mean, I fear everything with Jalen Hurts in a normal matchup. I think Cleveland, as much crap as Cleveland has received because of their quarterback situation, the defense can still smash. And Jalen Hurts has not looked great this season. So I'm more inclined to spend a little bit down. I don't like what Jordan Love showed us last week in a fantastic spot. So I question what he's going to do in this spot against Arizona. And because I want to spend up in those flex spots that we'll talk about later, I think we have to take a look at Justin Fields and Anthony Richardson this week.
Well,
I mean, there is a 4K quarterback too.
Right. Well, we got some real cheap ones. I mean, you have to really hold your nose. To talk about the Hurts thing, would your opinion change of Hurts against Cleveland? I mean, they are a 9.5 point favorite.
Yeah.
They're 8.5-point favorites at home. If AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are back, or at least one of them is back, are you at least more comfortable with Jalen Hurts then? Because I mean, my natural heuristic, especially for cash games or like smaller field type of stuff, is that I like playing teams that have big implied point totals and are
Big
favorites.
totals.
Yeah,
Big totals. Yeah.
they don't hit the ceiling. Like you talk about Lamar, it's like, okay, maybe this is not a Lamar ceiling game, but 22 points, I mean, I'm happy with, right? Jalen Hurts gets 22 points, I'm happy with, right? Because we have like guys on the other side of the spectrum, like someone like Jaden Daniels. Obviously, he has the legs. This could be a more competitive game, but the failure rate here when they're a road dog and they're 6.5-point underdogs, that doesn't make me feel comfortable. We got Indianapolis at Tennessee. I don't mind the matchup against the Titans, but there's a lot of failure rate with Richardson.
Totally.
Also,
there's a lot of failure rate with everyone. So when there's a high failure rate for everyone, and Lamar doesn't have I don't think he has a high failure rate, but for 7,800, we need a little bit more from him to like quote get there. So when there's a lot of question marks with everyone, and we have again 3 flex spots where I think we really want to target, and not a lot of value in those flex spots, that's when I shift toward, well, you got to save somewhere. And I think we're going to have to save a quarterback looking at as the slate texture, looks right now at this moment on Wednesday morning.
right.
I think we're going to have to spend a little down on quarterback.
Am I crazy, Alex? If I don't want to spend all the way down, we'll talk about the really cheap stuff, right? That you really aren't going to feel comfortable with. Is it weird for me to say that I feel the most comfortable with Dak Prescott at 6,700
No.
in a game with a 52.2.5 total? Dallas is at home. They're a road dog. They're a home dog to the Lions. They're 3-point underdogs, but they have they almost have a 25-point implied total, and Dallas has one of the highest pass rates in the entire league, and Detroit has one of the best run defenses in the entire league, and you got Zeke and Dowdle there that are probably not going to change anything like that. I'm not sure if the Cowboys win this game, but I feel a lot more comfortable. If you tell me any of these quarterbacks drop back 40 times, I'm fine playing them. It's just like I'll make it up in volume. So like for 6,700, like right now he's in my dummy cash game lineup, and another guy that fits kind of that mold is Kyler Murray at 6,800. I don't like that they're obviously 5-point road underdogs. But at least I get something with Kyler Murray's legs. Because a lot of times in cash, you want to play quarterbacks that have some rushing upside.
I think this week we're going to need a rushing touchdown out of our quarterback this week. Does that make sense? Because the high ceilings on the passers, I guess, well, even the medians, look at the medians on the passers like Dak, Goff, Cousins. I don't think we're going to get like 4 touchdowns out of them. And I think we're going to get a rushing touchdown out of one of these guys, which is, either Fields or Richardson or maybe even Love. I think I would rather spend on Love because there's some rushing upside for $100 less than Dak. I don't think Dak is crazy for cash, but I think we want to have that rushing touchdown upside, that 40-yard rushing, 10 points from the legs. We want to have that possibility.
But I wouldn't mind playing a Goff or a Cousins. You're not getting any rushing yards from them. But I mean, I almost feel like I trust Detroit and Atlanta more than Justin Fields in Pittsburgh. Even though they're facing the Raiders on the road. Like, Fields he's not running 80 yards a game anymore. Like 5,800. He's there. This whole show is going to be us going, am I crazy for doing this? And you're like, well, you're not that crazy. I'd rather do this. And I'm going, I think you're a little bit crazy because there's nothing there's literally, we're going to go position by position. There's nothing that stands out. It's
no,
like,
there's
no, this is the guy, and this is the play, and he's going to be 40% owned, and there's no one like that. And
there are very low opportunity costs.
Right.
On this,
it's almost right now. It's a play who you like. If you have a take, you take a look. I mean, take a look at our projections. We use this RGV column to, as far as, salary adjusted value plus minus. Like the highest on the slate is like anytime you're plus or minus 3 here, like there's not that dramatic of a difference between a lot of these people. That if you're like, well, I'd rather play Jordan.
And it goes under 2 really fast. I started by RGV,
so
or it goes under 2 very fast.
Right. So Green Bay has a 27.25 implied total against the Cardinals. If you're like, yeah, I'm going to play Jordan Love in my cash lineup and not Dak Prescott for 100 cheaper, I can't argue with. I'm just like, it's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
I prefer Dak to Jordan Love, but if you prefer, I can't argue against it. The only thing that I could argue against is we get like, are you going to play someone like Spencer Rattler against the Bucks? Right, because he's probably going to be the starter. I mean, we have him in right here. I don't know if Tim Hain, whatever his name is, whoever the Saints started quarterback.
Was it Hafner, or am I thinking of this different guy?
Hain, or whatever. The Saints have a 19-point implied team total, which says a lot because they actually have good skill position players. Because Drake May is also going to start for $5K against Houston for the Patriots. We got Bo Nix down there that. Denver has a 16. It's weird. The Saints have a higher implied team total than a lot of the other like cheap quarterback level type of stuff. I mean, are we going to be? Is this the type of slate where you just? I mean, because I look down here and it's like Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell or Deshaun Watson, Will Levis against Indianapolis. I mean, the Titans have a 21 implied point total, but I can't. Come on. Are you going to really play?
Our projections are saying this is the thing with Tennessee. I mean, our projections, we're going to get there with running back. I'm not going to play Tony Pollard, but Tony Pollard actually projects pretty well. So the models are saying that Tennessee is going to get to 21 points on the ground.
For the most part, I mean, he doesn't. I mean, these guys don't really even project well, even for their price that much.
No.
I mean,
and the Rattler thing. In a lot of cases where we look at a slate like this, where again, not tons of value in the flex spots, not a great punt tight end. We don't want to go 2 tight ends on this slate. Usually we would gravitate toward Rattler a little harder. I fear that Rattler won't play the whole game. It's kind of weird that the guy who came in after Carr is not the guy who's starting next week. I have to feel like there's, he's got someone creeping over his shoulder if he makes a mistake or 2. So, I mean, can Rattler even play 4 quarters in this game? I don't know that. I don't know anything about the guy. I don't watch college football. I looked him up a little bit and read something on CBS Sports that, he's got some legs. And I mean, he was decent against college guys. Everyone's decent against college guys. That's how they got here. So,
but here's the more important question. If you play, let's say you play a 4K quarterback, are we're going to go into running back and wide receiver? It's like, are we?
The world isn't exactly your
guys?
The world isn't exactly your oyster if you jam in the 4K quarterback. If you slide the 4K quarterback in, it's not like we have 4 or 5 smash values at running back and wide receiver where we absolutely have to. This isn't David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell days,
right?
Where we're going to make up for it with 60 points from those 2 guys.
To me, the clearly top running back, and it's not by far at all. There's literally no one on the slate that is like, this was the first guy in my cash lineup. There's no one. There's no one right now. But Bijan Robinson at 6,600. Atlanta is facing Carolina with a 26.75 implied team total, and the Panthers don't have a real defense.
No,
I mean,
Bijan is an automatic for me. And I get what you're saying, that there isn't like this, there isn't this amazing spot, but the thing is Bijan is only 6,600. And he probably should be 7,500. He hasn't had that huge we haven't seen him really bust out, but this should be the week where he busts out because Carolina can't stop anyone. We've talked about this since week 2. That Carolina just can't stop anyone. They've looked somewhat better in a couple of weeks because Bryce Young is not there, doing 3 and outs anymore. So time of possession is just less than it was those first couple of weeks. But Atlanta can hold on to the ball. They want to run the ball a lot. They haven't had a lot of success with it, but they should have a lot of success this week. I mean, DeAndre Swift and Roshan Johnson are running all over Carolina. So,
well, people's argument against Bijan would be like, well, Tyler Algier is taking touches here, and Bijan maybe he's not all that healthy or whatever. If you want to make that argument about like, is he going to get enough touches? Is whatever
that's everywhere though.
Right. That's exactly. I'm like,
that's the argument everywhere.
Let's go down this list. Let's go down every running back on this slate. So like you're. I'm just looking heuristically at the team totals, and I'm like, I just want to play the players that are in the best spots. So like, I put this guy. He's not as explosive as Bijan, but I put this guy in the bucket also, and he seeds work to a secondary running back. And that's Josh Jacobs at 6,700. Green Bay has a 27.25 implied team total. Like, I'd rather play Jacobs. I know Pollard's cheaper at 6K, but I mean, I'd much rather. I mean, it's weird to say. I almost rather play Najee over Pollard because I think the Steelers are in a better spot than the.
I would rather play Najee over Tony. And when I took a glance at the slate just a couple minutes before we got on, I was going to say to you, what do we do with our second running back? Because this is a mess. Najee Harris is getting volume. He's splitting too. I mean, there's this new guy out of Harvard, this undrafted guy was getting a lot of snaps last week. And Najee can get 20 carries. He doesn't do anything with the ball. And how many times do we have to see him get the ball 15, 20 times and do nothing with it? How many times do we have to go through this story? It's 5,800 and you're going to get a lot of touches, but what are we going to get from him? We're just not getting anything from him. And this has been years now. This isn't, he's in a bad spell. Eventually he's going to bust out. Tony Pollard's talk about a guy creeping over his shoulder. I mean, he could lose his job any snap. Chuba's reasonable, but I don't think we can spend 6,300 on our second running back because there isn't a lot of other value on this slate. I think we need to find something cheap, and I don't know what it is. That's why I said I was going to ask you, what do you do with your second running back spot? So one of the other flex spots that I almost feel I have to keep on my list is Saquon Barkley, just by default. The volume should be there. They should have problems throwing the football. It's a tough defense, but he should get the volume. He can actually do things with volume just as Saquon Barkley doing Saquon Barkley things. I just don't know how we afford him. And then I look down the list. I don't know where else to go. I mean, you tell me, is there anything else that pops out as a second running back?
Well, right now, I'm leaning more towards having a 4 wide receiver build for cash.
I am as well. I'm very much so.
I mean, I'm comparing Najee basically at 5,800 to a lot of like the 5K level wide receivers as a flex play. Because like right now I have Bijan and Jacobs. Like to me, those are the most. I mean, I'd love to play Barkley, but he's 8,200. Kamara at 7,700. You can make a case that there's going to be a lot of dump offs, but like I don't want to play underdog running back.
7,700.
Right,
7,700.
Like the thing about Chuba Hubbard is that he's going to get the opportunities.
Yeah.
Whether or not the Panthers do anything with it is a different story. So like that's the knock on Hubbard. And then you have the opposite thing of Gibbs. It's like, I know Detroit's going to score
7,000.
Right, but Gibbs is 7,000, and obviously you got David Montgomery taking work, had the splitting. I mean, he has to work on efficiency. And then you got like I mean, as of now, like nothing. The two people I trust the most are Robinson and Jacobs. And then, I mean, and we're going to go to wide receiver now. I mean, is there legitimately a wide receiver that even worth? I mean, would I love to play CeeDee Lamb or Amon-Ra St. Brown? Sure. Are they necessary on this slate? I don't think so. Is it weird for me to say that like my favorite receiver on the slate Like I'm looking in like that 5K range, and
I've only seen
it's
one guy
odd.
in that 5K range. Who are you looking at in that 5K range?
I
Well,
think
I guess there are two
I think
guys.
absolutely cash viable is Darnell Mooney at 5,300.
Yes. Okay.
The
Uh,
Falcons have
totally.
they've shown for the first 5 games that Darnell, that although Drake London will project better at 6,700 and obviously has a higher ceiling and probably a little bit more touchdown equity, but Mooney gets schemed the ball at least 3 or 4 times a game. That I
Mooney's getting
just feel
targeted in that red zone. He's getting targeted in the end zone too for touchdowns. I mean, that's when they're trying to get into the end zone, it's not just one guy. It could be London, it could be Mooney. So I think that was one of the guys. There's another guy, I think.
the other guy's a little bit more risky, but I like the game, and it's Jalen Tolbert because he pretty much has taken over for
Yeah.
Brandon Cooks,
Yeah.
and there's like no one behind. I mean, basically, there's no one behind him at this point. I expect Dallas to throw the ball 40 times. I mean, yeah, CeeDee Lamb's great at 8,600, but for 5K, I mean, he could also break a big. Also, he could bail you out with a long touchdown.
Yeah. It's a guy for 5K who's the number 2 guy in Dallas, and like you said, they should be throwing a lot. He gets the ball all over the field too. He can get you some receptions with some screens. He can go downfield and make a big play, and it's 5K, and he's projecting very well right now. He's projecting
And
very
you
well.
know who my third one in my cash lineup is? Because I'm playing a lot of the mid-level stuff. The third guy plays for an underdog. Is going to be playing for an underdog in a game where last week the quarterback threw for 500. How many yards did Burrow throw for? I don't know. He threw
God,
for
how
a
many
lot. He
yards?
won
He
the
threw 5
slate.
touchdowns, right? Yeah.
Right. Terry McLaurin at 6,400. You have to assume that the Commanders are probably going to be behind in this game. And although the first 2 games, they've spread the ball out, they've tried to run the ball, but, the Commanders have actually, they've punted the least out of any team in the entire league. They've been
Mm-hmm.
very efficient in their offense. So that has led to a lot more Brian Robinson, led to a lot more Austin Eckler, a lot more McCaffrey short passing. But, when they need to throw, McLaurin's pretty much the guy. It's not Diami Brown. It's not anyone else. Although the range of outcomes is going to be a bit wider. I think Terry McLaurin at 6,400. I think on FanDuel, Terry McLaurin at 6,800, he's in. He's in no problem. The difference is that between running backs and wide receivers is that I don't mind playing wide receivers on dogs. I don't like playing
because
running
they're going to
backs.
throw later.
Right.
Yeah, you can
So
get some, those last 20 minutes of the game, the defense moves back a little bit. You get some easy receptions. You get some 8-yard passes here and there, underneath.
right. Also, if they're down by more than a touchdown, they're forced
They
to
got to
throw
throw a
the
lot.
ball.
Yeah, they're forced to throw the ball.
They could get you. They could bail you out with some volume. But what are your thoughts
So
on Terry McLaurin at 6,400?
I wish McLaurin was getting more volume, and I wish Jaden Daniels was not spreading the ball out so much. It's good football for Washington. I would feel better about Terry McLaurin if he was that guy getting, 8, 12 targets. Something we're seeing, we'll get there with tight end, is rookie quarterbacks, running quarterbacks, when they face some trouble, they will find a security blanket, and that security blanket is a lot of times a tight end. So I do think that Baltimore can. There are questions with everyone, but there are questions that Baltimore can just zero in on Terry McLaurin and force the ball down to Zach Ertz, force the ball down to Austin Eckler, force the ball down to Brian Robinson. So that's the risk in Terry McLaurin against
Then
a
who would you
smart
play?
defense.
Would do the same thing at running back.
So I was gonna say, I think if I'm not playing Tolbert, I'm jamming in CeeDee Lamb, but I'm probably playing Tolbert. I'm probably playing Tolbert. So I don't know. I don't want to play. I'm not feeling great about Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's tough. We talk about it. We talked about Atlanta a little bit, and we talk about correlation. I don't think that Deontay Johnson's a bad play at 6,100 because he can just get volume. The problem is, can he get in the end zone? Are they going to get him in the end zone? I don't know, but he can get the volume. He can get 8 catches for 18 points for us. So Deontay Johnson at 6,100 is someone we didn't mention. I wish Jaden Reed was a little bit cheaper. He's not. I wish Drake London was a little bit cheaper. He's not. Same
I
with
wish
Amon-Ra
Zay
St. Brown.
Flowers was a little bit cheaper, and he's not. Right?
Yeah.
I wish Stephon Diggs was a little cheaper, and he's not. I wish
there's a lot of very efficient pricing on this slate here.
The cheapest I'd go down to in cash, this may be a very weird take, but I think
I've got a weird one.
I think Rashad Bateman at 4,100 with a Ravens team that has almost a 30-point implied total. Like, if I'm going to take a shot on a 4K guy, at least give me a shot on someone that, could, maybe he only gets 3 catches, but one of them is a touchdown. And then it's like, okay, he paid off his price tag, rather than play someone like Jalen Polk or someone where I don't know if the Patriots could score anything.
I was going to say, if there's a guy in that 4K range, I think we're going to have to play someone in that 4K range at wide receiver, Ray McLeod, because he gets the short targets in the open field. He gets good blocking, and the Panthers can't tackle. So, he can turn a screen pass or a short slant into something long. That's what Ray McLeod can do.
Right. One of my favorite stacks we'll be talking about on Friday. As of now, I like the Cousins doubles with either Hubbard or Deontay Johnson run back. I think this Atlanta Carolina game,
yeah,
right? Just because no matter how bad the Panthers defense is, have you ever? When's the last time a Falcons team has like held on to a lead for they're up by 21 points and coast to victory? It's like, no, that's coming down to the last field goal attempt.
Hasn't every game for the Falcons come down to the last 5 minutes? Yeah, that's really what they're doing. Yeah.
Points, and there's going to be some drive with 37 seconds left that their opponent has to hit a field goal in order to go to overtime. Like, they're going to get right into the line. So I don't mind that at all. Are there any other wide receivers that you're necessarily keying in on, or is that for more cash game type lineups? Because
for cash, I'm going to have
it very
really
similar
tight.
to running. I just want to say, I just find it similar to running back, where if you're listening out there and you're watching out there and you go, well, why didn't you mention Lad McConkey instead of Darnell Mooney? Why didn't you mention Trey Tucker instead of Rashad Bateman? Why didn't you mention you didn't talk that much about Drake London, and I like Drake London instead of Terry McLaurin. Dude, they're all close to the same. Feels fine. I can't argue with that. These are my slight leans in my way and looking at our projections.
Yeah, I think going back to the Terry McLaurin thing, I would gravitate more toward London, because London's getting a lot of targets recently, and Kirk Cousins has been a guy when a guy can be trustworthy, he will go to him a lot. We saw, Justin Jefferson's a great receiver. He's the best in the league, and Sam Darnold is going to him too. But there are a lot of quarterbacks who will not just force feed the ball to one guy. And Kirk Cousins has shown that he can do that, and he has been doing that with London the last 3 weeks.
Tight end. If I can, I want to play Jake Ferguson at 5K. The problem is I may not be able to.
That's a big if. That's a big if. 5K isn't that much. He's probably underpriced at 5K, and I still don't think I can afford him.
Right. I think in the cheaper, I think the tight ends that I kind of looked at was if I can't get Ferguson, I think paying down for Otten or Ertz is fine. And then if you really need to pay down, Jatavian Sanders for Carolina, because now the Panthers are out of tight ends. So Sanders is now going to just probably be the starter. And it's just like any other cheap tight end. If they get you 5 points, just be happy type of, you just punted there. But that's kind of the outlook. But it's quite possible I can play Ferguson. I mean, if I maneuver around my lineup, I can play Ferguson, just that you're not playing any expensive wide receiver, and you're just kind of going right down the middle. You're kind of going 6K quarterback, 6K running back, 6K running back, 6K wide receiver, 5K wide receiver, 4K wide receiver, 5K tight end, 5K flex, and then, cheap defense, 2K level defense, and you're good. And then you look at that lineup and you go, I don't really like it. And then you switch it to something else. You do a 2v2 and you're like, I don't really like it. And then you do a 2v2 another way and go, I don't really like it. And it's like this. And then next thing you know, it's 14 hours later, and you still don't like your line. Doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah, given the pricing on this slate, I feel like there's going to be a Cowboy in my cash lineup, right? It's going to be either paying up to CD, paying down to Jalen Tolbert, or going with Jake Ferguson, or the Cowboys are the one spot where I feel there's some ways to take advantage of pricing on a slate where there really aren't a lot of ways to take advantage of pricing. So if we're going cheap at wide receiver, it's I'm prioritizing going cheap at wide receiver to play Jake Ferguson at tight end. Like that might be a reasonable move. That might be a reasonable strategy on this slate.
Yeah, but for a tight end, Jake Ferguson, actually gets volume.
He gets balls.
Right.
I mean, that's what we want. He gets balls. I mean, the Cowboys are not running the ball very well, and they shouldn't have to run the ball. They shouldn't get the opportunity to run the ball on this slate. So he should run a lot of routes. Even when they are in that running mode, they don't use him to block, to like stop the blitz, stuff like that. Like on third down and such, he's running a route, and he's running a good route, like an out route or whatever, to get the ball. So we can get a good volume from him. I do want to go back to the Zach Ertz point. Between Otten versus Ertz, I think it's good to remember that young quarterbacks, running quarterbacks, again, when coverage is tight, they will find a security blanket, and the tight end is just it just happens a lot. We've seen it through the years where tight ends become that security blanket for a running quarterback, especially an efficient one.
Especially when like Ertz is typically will be covered by a linebacker. It will be sitting like 6 yards out from the line of scrimmage. And a lot of times these defenses, on especially like a third and long, like feel free to throw it to Ertz 2 yards short of the sticks because he ain't getting there because he just got catches and falls on the ground. So I think Ertz has the, you want to call him safer, I guess. I guess Otten has more upside because this Saints team could just implode with the, garbage quarterback, and the Buccaneers could just have 45 minutes of possession. Defense, DST. My natural inclination on the slate was to play the Buccaneers at 2,600, being
Me too.
That, I mean, I don't mind playing the Saints defense against Mayfield either. I don't mind playing the Titans defense 2,800 against Anthony Richardson. And if I had the money, which I'm not, the Eagles defense against Deshaun Watson, any defense against Deshaun Watson is worth playing. And the Chargers, any defense worth Bo Nix is worth playing. But I think the Buccaneers essentially have been priced as if Carr was starting. So I think if DraftKings repriced the slate, the Buccaneers would ended up being like 3K. So you're technically getting maybe a little bit of value on the Bucs defense. Although I don't think the Bucs defense is that great. Like if they're like the super popular GPP DSD, I mean that's easy. I just don't think the Bucs generate that much stealing, right? I think that they won't give up many points. They'll get 2 or 3 sacks, maybe an interception, but they're not really the type of defense that is getting, flying in with strip sacks and 7 sacks and 3 interceptions. I mean, and truthfully, the Eagles aren't either, right? If anything, maybe I trust the Titans defense. I think the Titans defense is actually much more of a defense that could generate like 15+ point ceilings in DST against Anthony Richardson. But DST is also on the same spot as all the other places. You want to make a case where you want to play if you want to play the Raiders defense against Justin Fields, or you want to play the Falcons defense against Andy Dalton for whatever reason, or any of these other, like the Chargers, go. The Ravens against Daniels, that sounds like a ceiling type of spot. 3K. Like, dude, it's DST.
I mean, I've said this numerous times on the show when we take this first look. I sort by price, and I go down from the cheapest to the most expensive, and I play the cheapest one that is palatable. And the cheapest one that is palatable is Tampa against a guy making his debut. Is Tampa a ridiculous dynamic defense? No. But whenever you have a guy making his debut and he is a running quarterback, there are more opportunities for fumbles. There are more opportunities for interceptions. There are more stupid interceptions in the flat that goes for a pick six, sack fumble when he scrambles too much that goes for a pick six because no one else is back there, or for a sack fumble touchdown. There are just a lot of opportunities for Tampa to step up. And GPPs, that's a different conversation. And I think you start looking at teams like the Titans, but for $200 cheaper against a guy making his debut, this is why I'm not playing the 4K quarterback, because I feel like I have to save money. I can't afford 3K on a defense for cash.
Right.
So I'm going to go with
400
Tampa.
may matter a lot.
That 400 is going to matter a lot.
As of now, you never know. 2 days from now, we'll see this guy's out and this guy's in, and next thing you know, we have a $4,700 running back and a $3,300 receiver that's going to get a 20% target share, and then whatever. So, I mean, this is as of now. There's nothing to expect that. There's no expectations that I see, but every week it's turned that the NFL has turned a little bit into the NBA. A little bit.
Yeah, you got to wait. Yeah. Well, and it's also because you got to wait because of injuries, and it's also on top of injuries, we have guys who we don't know. Sometimes we don't even know who the next man up is with the NFL now. I mean, we saw like Najee Harris was a narrative going into Showdown. He's going to be the only running back there. That didn't happen. They still ended up splitting the ball. Justin Fields ran the ball early. They gave it to that guy from Harvard a bunch of times. Like, it still didn't happen where Najee Harris got a 25-30 touch game. So this is, it's a combination of not knowing practice stuff until really late Friday, early Saturday, and then and also not knowing who the next man up is. And then with wide receiver situations, passing is down across the board in the league. So when that number one wide receiver has a groin pull and he's not going to play, do we trust who the quote WR2 is? Do we know who the WR2 is? It could be the 3 guy who comes out and has a big game. We saw that with the Brandon Ayuk, right? Everyone's like, you got to play Brandon Ayuk. There's no Debo. There's no Christian McCaffrey. Jamming. Brandon Ayuk lock. People were saying lock Brandon Ayuk, and Juwan Jennings had 3 touchdowns. Because we don't know who that next guy up is in pretty much every situation at wide receiver.
But we do know who the next guy up is in premium content here at RotoGrinders. Alex, you'll have you do a Prize Picks article, right?
Prize Picks, yeah, I do free Prize Picks articles.
It's free. It's free. Oh, okay. So free. Everyone.
No, I'm not doing any premium.
Why do we give out so much?
We're giving away some. And Prize Picks has been, because passing has been down. Prize Picks has been very juicy for running backs getting receiving yards with demon boosts, field goal kickers with demon boosts getting more than 1.5 field goals. Like, these little things are things you have to look at with Prize Picks. You can't just target 100+ yards from CeeDee Lamb. You got to really look at the zeitgeist of the NFL right now, and you can find some really good boosters at good prices.
Well, we'll be talking about Prize Picks, Underdog, Sleeper, Fliff, any of those, Vivid. I think Vivid exists as the pick'em sites, as well as props on the regular sports books tomorrow with Will Priester, and then Friday, Squirrel Patrol will be back. We'll be talking GPP strategy, so hit that thumbs up button on your way out the door. Hit the subscribe button, especially if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to always know when we go live. We got Thursday Night Football tomorrow also, so we got all the showdown stuff for you. And NHL is back. NBA will be back in about 2 weeks. They're doing preseason. Preseason exists, right? We got college football. College basketball will be back. We got MMA. We got PGA. We got tons of stuff here. Get a combo premium pass. Get a subscription here to RotoGrinders. Click on that link in the description. Combo premium. Get $40 off your first month, and you get access to everything here at RotoGrinders, which includes Lineup HQ to build your lineups. Sim Labs, our sim product. You could simulate for all the major sports, right? For basketball, for baseball, for football, for golf, right? So use our Sim Labs stuff. We have an app for that also on your phone, so you could do it on the go, right? Both. We have both Lineup HQ. We got everything. Everything for you here. I don't know what you're waiting for. So click on that link in the description. Get $40 off your first month. And I will see you tomorrow, as I'm usually here, Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock Eastern, talking about all things you're thinking about in daily fantasy, props, and pick'em on RotoGrinders Today.